For the first time in forever.
It's been so long.
It really, really has been. Yep.
These crazy bastards are already cussed.
The three of us together in a podcast has not happened for a few months, I want to say. It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
It's been a hot minute, as the kids say. But hello to all my biconics wrestling nerds out there, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Faction, your weekly WWE Smackdown review. This week we are reviewing the Friday, November 10th, 2023 episode of Smackdown. I am one of your hosts, Mikey. Joined with me always, first of all, is the lovable Minnie, aka Evan. You know, holding it down for the under 20, the under 30 crowd, I guess.
Under 20. You're halfway to 50, Minnie.
That is very, very fair. And then, of course, joining us from who knows where, he finally found himself out of the locker. Finally, is John.
I was stuck in that locker for a long time. If you've been following that saga over on the other segment we do, I'm happy to be back. It's been a long month though. I've been trying to watch SmackDown and catching up where I can because I've been busy directing, as some of you know. And every time I check in, I'm sort of like, wait, what? And then I jump to our group chat to make sure I'm watching the same thing or I'm following the same stuff. It's been a weird month for WWE in a lot of different ways. That's a different podcast though. I don't want to dive into all of that stuff. I will say it sounds like Crown Jewel was kind of a meh of an event, and frankly, no one watched it, so that's interesting.
Yeah,
I only bring it up because this SmackDown was littered with it because this was the show after and all the plot lines and other stuff that were buried in this.
Yeah, time is a weird thing because I was like, all right, we're on the road to Survivor Series. I'm like, wait a minute, why are we bringing up Crown Jewel stuff? Look at my calendar. What do you mean it's only been like less than 7 days since Crown Jewels? It's felt longer.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and I don't want to. I understand the politics of the thing. I understand the Vince McMahon of the thing. I understand a lot of the other plot lines, which we've talked about eloquently on other podcasts here on the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. But I don't know. I think again they kind of booked themselves and wrote themselves into a corner. But we'll talk about that tonight with some of the way stuff went, because I need your opinions on some things, because I couldn't tell if I was lost or if this was just we're rolling dice to choose plot lines at this point. Like today's gonna be the happening.
Yep, today is gonna be the catch-up review because John's like, wait, what went? Why? I promise we'll catch you up because I've been following along.
Well, I mean, sure. So you don't have to go full exposition on me because I think I watched some of our previous reviews, which. Hilarious. Minnie says things out loud sometimes. I don't think Minnie realizes how funny they are. So that's great. Just so weird. Like this in my head, this SmackDown wasn't the order of events and plots that we should have gotten. And maybe I needed to watch Raw, but sometimes you guys tell me not to watch Raw because it leaves that taste in your mouth. So I'm not sure.
Raw is its own thing at the moment.
Sure.
Raw is something else.
It's getting crazy, and it's gonna be great.
I'm not even watching Raw tonight. I'm like, fuck that.
That's unfortunate. Right off the bat, I did want to say I couldn't tell if I loved or was indifferent to Kevin Owens. I think being the guest announcer, and I don't think Kevin could tell if he liked it or not either. The first 10 minutes he was out there, I was like, why am I here?
Until they got the fun little toys when he was more interested.
Until they got trouble to cause by the end, I think he was fine.
Oh yeah, the beginning is a little. He was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then he got more into it a little bit later.
Yeah, I think once he realized how he was going to be used and involved, he didn't say anything the first, 10 minutes or so. Just go like, yeah, Corey sent me a tie. Yeah, congratulations on your child. And then nothing.
I love.
But what happened first, Mikey?
So, I mean, since we're talking about things not necessarily in order, I was a little confused. I knew this was going to happen eventually, but the way we went about it was weird. We had our first in-ring segment, SmackDown kickoff with LWO. Rey Mysterio comes to the ring. He laments a little bit about losing the United States Championship to Logan Paul, and we got to see what happened with the brass knucks about it. And then Carlito comes out and interrupts because Ray blames Logan and kind of like, everything is blah, blah, blah. Carlito comes out and interrupts and then causes a wedge because he says that Ray shouldn't be blaming Logan. He should be blaming Santos, and Santos was the one who left it.
Mm-hmm.
And then fight kind of breaks out a little bit, like an argument.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it. Not to jump on the acting already as acting teacher, because I'm going to jump on someone later, and I already think you know who I'm coming for. I didn't buy the sort of shoehorn wedge in the middle of LWO. And what makes me sad, and you've mentioned this on a few podcasts as I was catching up, you and Luis had a segment, with LWO, they don't know what to do, right? They have Ray, and they have everyone else, and they're just misusing the four of them. And they got Carlito in there, which is great. But now they sort of brought Carlito back to create this wedge arbitrarily, I guess. And I'm not sure why. Because you just went through this whole title with Santos and Ray respecting each other and doing these matches together as mentor. And how are you going to have out of nowhere this cause the rift? I don't buy it. Not with what you've set up already.
I don't know. And then it gets weirder. So from here, Santos leaves, and then we jump immediately into our first match, which is Carlito versus Bobby Lashley, which was all right.
It was a weird segue going from that whole bit with them fighting with each other to straight into the match with Bobby Lashley and the Suit Profits. I was so thrown off by it, but I do like the match. I like the way Carlito wrestles. If you notice, he does small things that emphasizes his cool. Like when he ducks under things, he looks so lazy when he does it, but he does it in character, and I enjoyed that. So like he ducked under something, he just put his head down, or he just stepped to the side, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that fits his character because he wants to be cool.
So you guys can remind me: did Carlito get bigger or did Bobby get smaller?
Carlito got bigger.
Yep. I don't remember Carlito being the same size as Bobby Lashley. I'm like,
nope, Carlito got bigger, bro. I was just
massive.
Like, yep.
In a good way. Like, since we saw Carlito come back at, was that Backlash? Carlito came back for the first time, and we all went, oh my God. Like,
right.
Just comparing how great a physique he has now to even, what did they say? It's been 13 years since he was in SmackDown or something like that? Like,
something like that.
Dude looks incredible.
Oh, totally agreed. I mean, this was a fun match, but Bobby Lashley does pick up the win because you want to keep building Bobby and the Suit Profits, as we're calling them. And then everything that happens afterwards is when I was like, okay, I'm a little bit more interested now. So the heels beat up Carlito after the match. Santos is there. He steps 1 foot through the rope, and then he kind of just stands there as he's watching them get beat up. And it's not until Ray's music hits that Ray jumps in with the chair, and then Santos comes in, and then this is where all things kind of broke loose. Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going. I don't want to jump you off. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just quickly finish this, and then we can talk about the fallacies that this was. So Ray checks in with Carlito. Him and Santos kind of look at each other a little bit. Ray yells at Santos. Santos goes to leave, comes back around, attacks Ray. Then they have this full-on argument, and then Santos goes to beat up Ray, throws him into the steps, smashes the steps on his. I'm hoping it's the leg, because if it was,
that's a lot of damage. I mean,
he looked like he hurt his nuts.
It looked like he was like pinned up and into the thing,
which was
weird. I've never really seen that before.
But yeah, so then as Santos continues to berate him, Zelina comes out, and Zelina, I love you, girl. But I was like, the tears were not believable.
And sadly, they all got put in an acting position that was rough because they had to sell something that was sort of arbitrary, right? And sort of like, you don't have to do this. You don't have. And just JVL and I talk about this sometimes too. They didn't have the language almost. They didn't have a script underneath them. You as a writer would understand. Like there was no words to sell this. It's your fault. I'm out of here. And then that doesn't set you up for anything later on.
No, and so there was that part, and then before we dissect this further, we lead into a backstage segment after commercial break where Kathy Kelly is trying to interview Santos and asks, why'd you attack Ray? And the only thing that Santos offers us is that he had it coming, like a la Chicago, and then left.
Yeah. The best part of that promo was cutting back to Kevin Owens' face afterwards. And his head is down, his eyes are like this. And he's just, what do I? And he has nothing to say. And I couldn't tell if he was trying not to laugh or if he was just genuinely disappointed in the fact that Santos left him with he had it coming. Like, that's all you could think of.
So let's dissect this. This was the thing from the beginning in-ring segment to the match to everything to the post-match beatdown. I'm conflicted.
Are you conflicted as in?
I hated the before-match stuff. The after stuff is fine. I just don't like that and again, you don't want to verbally, you don't want to explain everything all at once, but the motive in the yelling was just like, you made me do this. I'm like, made him do what? Like,
made him do what? Why?
What? Why?
Unless there's some exposition we don't know, right? Unless we find out Ray did something to Santos, there's no reason for this turn at all. They didn't set it up in any way. That just went.
Okay, so they kind of did, though. I'm not sure if you noticed when Ray beat Santos for the United States Championship, Santos is visibly upset.
Sure.
Now they didn't build upon that more, but this is where they say the seeds of this started. They didn't build upon it, and they should possibly build upon it more. But they should have used more of the jealousy of Santos, of his hero still doing well and him not doing well. They should have done that before they did the split, instead of just using the Logan Paul brass knuckle bullshit, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I remember that now.
It's all there. They're just not using it right.
Yeah, and I think they just waited too long. That was a few months back. They could have done anything to hint at that. Instead, they got the LWO back and everyone got reunited and all this other things. I would have been more interested if Carlito shows up and is picking on Santos for some other reason, and we let that flourish for a week or two, and then we get this break. Otherwise, it's sort of like
Carlito versus Ray for the leader of the LWO or something. I don't know.
I don't hate that at all. Some sort of, I don't like the direction you're taking them. We keep losing these matches. It's kind of similar to what Bobby Lashley's doing right now, but it's a typical heel trope turn thing. I don't know. Did you approve of this, Mikey, or what is your thought on that?
I think having Santos go heel is something that I've always wanted since he's come up to main roster. I think he works better as a heel from his time as Legado del Fantasma back in NXT. My big issue with this is that I don't mind using Carlito as the catalyst to kind of create the split. I feel like, though, yes, I agree with my co-host. I agree with Minnie here that the seeds were planted when Santos lost that title to Ray and didn't win the United States Championship. But the big issue that I have is that I feel like pulling the trigger using Carlito as the catalyst for the split was like way too soon. They should have like did it for like maybe a couple of weeks and then this happened to build up to the split.
Sure.
It's just that, thing happened at Crown Jewel. Santos didn't do it like maliciously or intentionally. It would just happen. And then all of a sudden Santos snaps.
Right. I don't, it's clunky and you're victim blaming a little bit. And what's hard too is what it looks like. And I got to watch the replay of this maybe eventually. Logan Paul seemed to be yes, used the brass knuckles, but still had a genuine moment with Ray after.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Ray's kind of yelling, you know what you did. And there's this awkward, this influencer is now your U.S. champion, which we can talk about later, I guess. I don't know. You just kind of shoehorn this breaking up of the LWO because you've misused them all along. It just falls flat to me. And I think Kevin Owens might have been feeling the same thing. Like, really, this is what you're doing to these guys? That might be just me reading or projecting. But Kevin Owens was definitely like, I don't know what you want me to say. What do you want me to say about this horrible decision?
Right. Well, we'll see what happens because as the story continues to unfold, we'll just have to wait and see. And then speaking of more in-ring stuff, the next thing is an in-ring segment where this took as much time as the previous one. Bayley comes out and she, addresses the Crown Jewel situation. And of course, the crowd does the what to her.
I feel like she handled the what's pretty well.
I think she did all right. Because listen, the what's I'm done with them.
I just can't get over the fact that Bayley is still cardboard on the mic, and drives me nuts that she holds that mic, she goes to talk, and then she forgets how to be a human, and just kind of looks at the camera as she does. Has none facial anything, and that makes me sad that no one's coached her up or no one's helped her. They just kind of let her drown out there. At least everyone else in Damage Control, including their newest member, I guess, which we'll talk about, can do it without even knowing the language, can have emotion and whatever in the moment. And Bayley just kind of gets lost in there. And that's unfortunate to me. And I really wanted to, and just sort of, let's talk about what happened at Crown Jewel. And I want to do this, and let's get you out here right now, and let's talk about it.
Yep, so she calls for...
And just frozen.
She calls for Io and Kyrie to come out. So Io, Dakota, and Kyrie saying come out. And then we have literally like a family counseling session where as soon as they're all in the ring, Bayley tells Io that she had a plan for Crown Jewel and that she didn't know Kyrie was going to be there. And then Io basically said, I had a plan too. And yes, I knew Kyrie was going to be there. So the seeds of dissent are still playing here.
Sure.
Io and Kyrie didn't have to say that much. I also love that continuity because we'd love to see it in wrestling. Bailey apologized for Kyrie for taking her out like back in 2020. In which that's when Kyrie departed the company 3 years ago. And Kyrie's just like, I forgive you, but not really. The way she said it, she's like, I forgive you, but I'm going to beat you up later.
We talked about Kyrie, probably one of my first episodes ever on Biconics. There was this pirate princess that we had mentioned. And I went, wait, who? And I remember looking her up at the time and being like, oh my, who is that? And then they were like, well, you'll never see her again. Like, oh, that sucks. And she's back, so I'm glad.
Yes, Kyrie
at the time
is back.
She had just left.
Yep, Kyrie is back.
I'm super excited, yeah.
She's back, and she's playing with this darker aesthetic, which I love, which hopefully means that we're getting some form of the Black Lotus triad like from New Japan and WWE, which is great. Which, spoiler alert, it might seem we might be getting that based on what happened towards the ending of this episode.
We're going to
talk about the ending. So as soon as family therapy is over, Bianca Belair's music hits, and she comes out, and she's like, oh, I'm about to whoop everybody up and down here. Bailey, of course, yells at Bianca, be like, we got the numbers. Who do you got? And then first, Charlotte Flair's music hits, so she comes out. And then Asuka's music comes and hit. She yells at Io and Kyrie in Japanese, which was great. And it sets up for our main event later, a 6-woman tag between Bianca, Charlotte, and Asuka versus Bailey, Io, and Kyrie.
So why is it that there's only like 6-7 women allowed on Raw ever? On SmackDown, excuse me. On SmackDown. Like, no, Raw gets like...
Raw has
we talked about this before. SmackDown gets nobody. I'm not saying they're nobodies, you know what I mean? But just sort of bringing in more talent, more something, more anything. I've seen Charlotte Flair and Asuka every week for months. Bianca Belair was gone for a little while, right? Damage control here. Okay, great. Shotzi shows up every now and then, which I'm glad to see Shotzi. You have this whole roster you're just not using. What is going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a spoiler alert, but SmackDown, we're getting our Women's War Games match for Survivor Series from the SmackDown pool.
I did see that.
So we're looking for a 4th member for Bianca's team because, again, spoiler alert, we'll talk about it at the end. We're going to preface this because I got a lot to say when we get to that. So we'll wait until we get to the ending. So overall, I thought this was okay. It served the purpose of setting up our main event later tonight. So
it was okay. But like I said, I wish Bailey had a little more. If I was an acting coach for WWE, which, I would take that job right away, get your breath under you. Bailey gets up there. She takes a breath. She stops breathing and she's just kind of leaning into the mic. And it just shuts her down physically. You watch someone like LA Knight, who's taking a breath all the time and is animated while breathing and has a reason to say what he's saying. Bailey just kind of goes up there and gets stuck, which is a shame because she's so charismatic everywhere else but the microphone sometimes. That drives me nuts. But I'm still a fan. She's still great.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to sound like I just don't want to sound like I'm ragging on Bailey. Bailey's fantastic, but there's some moments where I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, hopefully with this inevitable face turn that's about to happen, hopefully this will allow her to do a little bit better.
That's kind of what I read too. I think they're find a way to squeeze her out if something will go wrong. So it's going to be all of them versus Bailey, and Bailey will now have to create her own.
Yep. We go from these first 2 segments in a match that was okay to the SmackDown deciding to run back a match that we saw a couple weeks ago, Dragon Lee versus Cedric Alexander. This match was a lot of fun. I will say the one we got a couple weeks ago was probably better in my opinion than this one, but this was still fun. Dragon Lee is great. I love that Cedric Alexander keeps getting television time. Like, that's what I want to see from him. Mm-hmm. And I don't really have any notes. I enjoyed the match. That's the only thing I wrote down. I was like, this match was fun.
This is where Kevin Owens started to care because he knows Alexander. Kevin Owens started talking now. I was like, oh, hey, you're actually there behind the table, Kevin Owens.
It was a good placeholder match. It was right in the middle. It kept the energy going after 2 long talking segments of the random match in the middle. It was fun.
I thought it was a lot of fun. There was that weird pancake moment right near the end where they sort of landed on each other in that weird consensual hug place on the bed. Like, oh, that just happened. What does that mean? And like I said at the top, or I don't know if we were rolling or not, A few weeks ago, I checked in on Raw and I watched the first match between the two of them. And I sat there like, this is amazing. Wow. And then luckily, a few weeks later, they run it back. You're right. That original match was a little cleaner. I felt maybe snug, as Luis would say. But this one was still a lot of fun. We had the "This is awesome" chant. We had the fans who got into it. When the match was over, they got a standing ovation from a whole side of the crowd. So folks liked it. It was good.
I loved it. This was a really...
What is the name of that spinning DDT thing that Dragon Lee did at the end, that finisher?
His finisher? I don't know the name of his finisher. I'll have to look at it. It looked like a tornado, like leg sweep almost.
It's just sort of insert adjectives and make it was slick. Like, oh, what is that? Because it's also the partner doing the end of it. So Dragon Lee has to do the first half, and then the partner's doing the second half down. Like, that was gorgeous, whatever that was.
This was a fun match, and I was like, cool.
Yeah.
And then we go into another talking segment for a little bit, but this one was actually cool. This one I actually enjoyed, but that's because of who was on the mic. So LA Knight comes out, and he cuts a promo. He talks about, he came up short at Crown Jewel against Roman Reigns. But I love the spin that he put on it. It's just like, I had Roman pin if it wasn't for Jimmy Uso, interfering. So I'm going to keep going until I get that title off of him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my other favorite Healy boy, Grayson Waller, comes out.
It's so good.
I love Grayson Waller. I don't care what nobody says. He comes out.
He's a great heel. He's perfect at what he's doing. Yeah.
I love it. So Grayson kind of cuts a promo up against LA Knight, and I wrote this down. LA Knight fires back. It's like, you and your $5 haircut. In fact, you look like you shouldn't be 50 feet within a school. I was just like, I stopped. I was like, shots fired.
I was rewatching that this afternoon, and that's when my wife walked in, and she just walked away. Like, yeah, he got him. I don't know what to do. Just got to be cool. Like,
the camera caught him laughing about it, and then getting back into the character. Yes. He's like,
well, he hit him with kangaroo jackass the moment he walked in. Like, hey, kangaroo jackass! And Grayson Waller, man, what am I gonna do? I thought that was really funny. I thought LA Knight looked a little wrecked. Like, his eyes were a little red and swollen. He looked a little pale the first chunk of this. I'm not sure if he's fighting a bug he got in Saudi Arabia or not, but I was like, oh, you look a little rough, man. I hope you're okay. But again, and then this whole promo leading into that, Kevin Owens having fun with it when they go out of the ring, and you hear him go, yeah, you can take my water, and grabs his water, throws his water all over Grayson Waller. And just all the banter in there. I thought that was a lot of fun too. The sparkly shorts is somewhere in there. Kevin Owens, look at your shorts. They're too sparkly.
That's too much
sequence.
They're all
sparkly. Too much sequence on the shorts. just running with it.
Since we're talking about it, we jump into... So after this promo off, we jump into the match, LA Knight versus Grayson Waller. Again, this was a lot of fun, and I have to say, this is probably my match of...
I think it's a great worker, and he is going to keep getting a lot of grief from fans and probably talent backstage and whatever else, but it's always fun. And the two of them just having a blast. I had a lot of fun watching that. Oh yeah, we forgot the Grayson Waller effect sounds like an STD line. That was just out of nowhere and left everyone thinking about it like, ooh, that's gross. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then what's great, and not to jump ahead too far, I saw this on Instagram before it got replayed on SmackDown, and I was dying. The Kevin Owens double punch. And I saw this, I guess that was maybe a week ago, a little over a week ago.
Something like that.
Somewhere there, maybe 2 weeks ago by now. Mm-hmm. And I was dying, like, oh my God, that's hysterical. And then for him to be on the teleprompter talking it out and how I punched these two fools. And I told him I was going to do it, and then he does it. That was beautiful.
That was so funny. I cried laughing during that.
This whole, from the promo to the match itself, for me, definitely just pairing everything together. This is probably the funnest part of SmackDown for me. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It was. So then, again... Pacing was a big thing over the SmackDown, because this was weird how this card was built. But after what we got, first we get a recap of John Cena's debut in WWE with Ruthless Aggression. I was like, we're setting up a retirement soon because we're playing his greatest hits now. I'm like, ooh, it's crazy out here.
Well, the strike's over, so yeah, we might be getting John Cena going back to movies for a while.
Yep. And then after that, we get a recap of his match against Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel. They literally played like 5 minutes of this. I was just like...
I skipped most of it. I was like, dude, we already know what happened here. Cut to the point.
Same.
John Cena looking really sad as he leaves the arena. But
I'm going to be honest with you. This is a hot take. Not a hot take. I don't like John Cena for the past 3 years. I'm a huge John Cena fan, but this John Cena is a shell of John Cena because he's so old now, and he's a pale, he's smaller, he just looks decrepit.
Yeah, I mean, I can't defend John Cena when you put it like that. I don't.
Looks decrepit, and to me, it makes me sad.
I think what's hard, because a lot of wrestlers, are old and shells of themselves, right? You could go over to AEW and see that. But what's hard is with John Cena is it comes off almost, jumping off what you said, Minnie, it comes off almost artificial or disingenuous for him to act like 2002 John Cena when we're looking at him and going, no, man, you're not. And that's okay. Just be who you are now, and I will love you. Don't act like what you were. If that makes sense. Like, evolve a little, change a little, which even The Undertaker did, and Sting had to do, and Flair never really did, but, right?
We don't talk about Ric Flair.
We don't talk about Ric Flair? Yeah, that's very
I mean, we kind of have to. Well, at least, at least the Dynamite crew has to.
If that makes sense, yeah. At least if that makes sense, Minnie. I agree with you absolutely, though. But in the sense that, like, it just comes off as, some rock band playing their greatest hits, and it's like, okay, what? I like that song, but what else are you what else are you doing?
Yeah, I will say, the last 3 years, John Cena necessarily hasn't been my favorite because this is not the John Cena that I'm used to. I will say, however, I think him putting over Solo this way was a lot better than him trying to push over Austin Theory at that WrestleMania match that we got earlier this year. Because Lord have mercy.
Well, is that why John Cena came back, to put over other people?
I guess. I don't know.
And just get a check
It's
while
weird
the strike was
John
going?
Cena was known for burying people.
Right. So what are we doing here?
I don't know. I mean, Solo ended up winning that match at Crown Jewel. He will be returning next week. We gotta stop with this return SmackDown. I hate this. It is what it is, though. Then we get to what we were talking about earlier. Kevin Owens having fun because he does like a football play-by-play, drawing circles and arrows, and then showing the punch, the double punch that happened 2 weeks ago.
Well, then he made fun of himself earlier because they're really trying to sell this football title belt thing.
He was not impressed. He was not impressed.
He did not give a damn. And he's talking about, like, I don't know what football is, but I know who Mario Lemieux is.
He's like a
Canadian, okay? And what's a joke is that those replica belts we talked about this, like $300 or $400. They are ridiculously expensive.
So expensive.
And then Logan Paul took a naked photo of himself with the belt, and everyone's like, why are you doing this with the belt?
I love that Triple H had to remind him, like, we do not fornicate on our titles. Like, because there have been some champions that have done some things with those titles.
Oh, there's some, there are some Shawn Michaels stories, and I'm sure there's some other stories you don't want to know. I love that segment. I love seeing Austin Theory go out there and just get pwned by Kevin Owens.
I know, Kevin Owens is like, I'm not going to fight, and then they pour water on him, and then he proceeds to punch Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Oh, yeah. Which we come to find out later.
He said it's because they threw the water bottle at Michael Cole. That's why he did it.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's because we're like, hey, your shoulder's hurting? Yeah, we'll do commentary. We'll get you suspended. We'll make it funny, and then you can take 2 weeks off. Okay.
We love to see it.
That's funny.
So then we get a backstage segment with Jimmy Uso because LA Knight wants to fight him next week. And so Jimmy Uso says, I'll fight you. And then he says, yeet. Which, if we ended there, then I thought it would have been fine. But then what happened afterwards made it a little cringe for me. Because then he answers the phone, it's Roman Reigns. And then he's like, all right, hangs up the phone, is like, not yeet. And then we go into our main event. I was like, we were almost there, Jimmy. Had that phone call not happened, we could have been okay.
I think this Roman Reigns on the phone thing is dumb.
Whack.
I don't buy it anymore. Paul Heyman barely sells it anymore. Like, no one's call Roman Reigns. Like, this doesn't work. No one talks like this.
At least Paul Heyman got a new phone case after all this time.
Like, this was like 10 years ago. Folks used to do shit like this. No one's doing this in 2023.
It's FaceTime now. Be like, what's up?
I know, seriously, right? Or text them. I mean, I believe it more if they were texting Roman and Roman was texting him back.
It's like
that I would believe.
Like the anonymous GM.
Seriously, those. Oh my gosh, those days were crazy.
My God. So I don't know. I think they had time to fill. They filled it with that. Like, all right, fine.
So then we get into our main event because this is where I'm going to spend most of my time talking. Because I was like,
here we go.
Here we go. So in our main event, it is a 6-woman tag where we see Damage Control being represented by Bayley, Io, and Kyrie taking on the team of Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka. The match. I thought it was okay. Kairi was my favorite part in this, but that's because I'm excited to see her back.
Kairi's great. I'm happy to see her in action officially because I haven't been watching like you all watched, so I was actually glad to see highlights and to see her in a match, not see highlights of a thing. I thought there were some miscues at the top, which was kind of unfortunate, seeing them all together.
Yeah. Watching Kerry Sane try to throw Charlotte into the stair steps.
They're like, what? No, that's not a thing. And then someone ran, was that Io jumped in right after to try and save this other thing and a thing. So it was the tag was, I don't know. It just got kind of clunky in the end, in the middle there at the top. And then we're building. And then I don't hate the trope of I can't reach the tag. I can't reach for the tag. I'm too far to reach the tag. You got to be a little bit out of the... She could have tagged anytime.
Yeah. The funny one I saw recently, I'm not sure how recent this was in AEW, where they're doing that, they pulled the dude's shoe off. I'm not sure. He's holding him by the leg, right? And he pulled his shoe off, and he threw it at his tag partner. He caught it and then threw it back and pegged them both with the shoe. It's hilarious.
Yeah. That might have been the Outrunners match against Sting and Darby. That was hilarious.
I saw the clip of that. It is awesome. You have to look it up. I'll see if I can find it.
That sounds hilarious.
Cracked me up.
I wish we could have gotten that because Bianca was just laying there trying to tag Asuka, and I was like, Bianca, girl, get up. You're like, no one's pulling your leg, nothing. And then she goes for the tag, and Asuka pulls her hand back. And thus, the Asuka heel turns begin, because then the schmoz happens where Charlotte and Bianca get beat up in the ring, and the match ends in a DQ.
Bianca gets misted.
Yeah.
Like cold-blooded. Boom! Right to the face.
Then the girls beat them up.
I thought, and this was where my heart went, I thought it was going to be Kairi, Io, and Asuka turning on everybody in that moment. Like we were going to get the full Island of Japan versus the world moment right then. That did not happen. But I had a moment of like, oh, this is it. I love it. And then it was like, no, it's now Asuka's in damage control, I guess. Like, okay.
So we'll talk about speculations in a sec, but it was fine. I mean, we're setting up our women's War Games match. So the main event was fine.
Yeah.
So since we're here, let's do speculations because we did that on Raw. We did that last week on Monday Night Raw. We got confirmation of our men's War Games match, which is the Judgment Day boys. So Damian Priest, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Dominic Mysterio taking on the team of Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and why am I forgetting the fourth one? And Seth Rollins of all people. So Seth's not defending the title at Survivor Series.
Really? That's a wild ass War Games. Okay.
So on Monday Night Raw, we speculated that rumors are going around because it's supposed to be a 5-on-5 match like it was last time. So we're speculating that on the Judgment Day boys, the fifth member is going to be Drew McIntyre because he's been having him and Rhea have had some talkings the last couple of weeks, so that should be interesting.
What?
Oh, I got to fill you in. This is what happens when you're gone for a month. Like things have gotten bananas. I'll fill you in afterwards. And then on Cody's team, the rumored speculated report is it's Mr. Randy Orton who will be surprising and joining them back up, being cleared from injury. So that's what me and Luis have speculated, and from the reports are kind of leading to.
I don't know. Luis is kind of Luis feels it in the ether. Luis is good at this stuff. That would be wild to see Randy Orton come back for sure. I would be hopeful.
Here's my wild take. I'm pulling a John out of the hat here. It's gonna be Shane McMahon.
No, why would you do this?
Money.
I swear, if that theme music hits, I'm turning off Survivor Series and I'm not watching it.
I'm going to fucking Vegas.
So that's on the men's side. So now it seems that we're building a women's War Games match. So the report is because obviously Dakota is still not cleared because of injury, but she'll be on the outside. I think this is going to be a 4-on-4, or if they make it a 5-on-5, I think I'll be okay. We'll see.
That's
obviously
a huge War Games.
It's going to be Bayley, Io, and Asuka, and Kairi for sure. And obviously we have Bianca and Charlotte on the other end. The rumor report is that the other two members are going to be Shotzi, because Shotzi has some entanglement with damage control.
Yeah.
Now, the fourth name that is supposed to be speculated, I don't know how I feel because she's on Raw, and I don't know, is Becky. Becky's supposed to be in that match too, and I'm like, I don't know of how I feel about Big Time Beck
I've-
being at that match.
I've heard the same thing because kayfabe wise, she's the only friend that Bianca has.
I mean, honest, unless they want to call an
guess
NXT
so.
girl up, but I'm trying to figure out who would they call up. And the only other SmackDown woman they have is Mia, but we haven't really seen her either.
Well, this is the problem with having 40 plus women on your roster and using the same 10. Like now everyone's kind of resting or waiting and not in these plot lines like they should or could be. I love having Shotzi in there just because, my heart goes out to Shotzi, which thank you, Minnie, for reminding the listening audience every time she comes out. Appreciate that. That's awesome. So I don't know. They kind of, again, and we've talked about this, Luisa talked about this too, is like, you got to let the women run everywhere. And in SmackDown, they have not. So now it's harder to book a War Games like this. I love the turn, though. I love Asuka and whatever this damage control thing is, because there's no Damage control. If anyone knows Homestar Runner, damage control. It'd be interesting to see, but it's gotta have someone that can give them a pop, and it's got to be someone that could really sell the fact that it's us against the world. I don't mind seeing the man in there. I think that might be fun. I have no problem with that.
I think it will be fun. Now, this is where things get crazy, because I think what's going to end up happening is I could see this going two ways. The one way that I want to see is that, obviously with War Games, you're supposed to have a winner, but I would love if Io, Kairi, and Asuka decide to destroy both teams and just lay like everybody out.
Can we get an all Asian faction? Shinsuke, Akira Tozawa, Kairi Sane, Akira Tozawa to be like the dominant prevalent force in wrestling right now.
That's what
and
I'm
just
saying.
crush
with those dance moves. Come on, we need it.
I love it, but
just crush everybody.
Listen, I've been saying since the rumored reports of Kairi coming back to WWE was happening, I want a Joshi wrestling faction stable, so Asian women. And the report is that there's going to be more women joining this little faction because we have a lot of Asian and Pacific Islander wrestlers across the board. So we'll see with that. That's the way I want it to go, where Asuka, Io, and Kairi just destroy both teams. The way that I can also see it happening, that's not necessarily my favorite, but it still proceeds its purpose, is Charlotte and Bianca win. Bayley gets pinned and loses, and then they kick Bayley out of the group because she lost, so they beat her up after the match. But which makes me sad. Yeah. I don't want Bayley to take the pin here. But in order for Bayley to have face run,
where else are you going? She's been a heel for a while, right? If it's her time to turn, then that's really the only way you could do it. But what sucks is everyone's kind of in love with the faction. So Bayley has an uphill battle to get everyone on her side now, which is going to be tough.
Yeah, so we're going to have to see what happens. But that does bring us to the end of this week's episode of SmackDown. So last thing we do before signing off is let's go through our ratings.
So we have the empanada scale, we have the mini scale, we have the
it's the mini scale.
Yeah, we're going to use the mini scale for SmackDown.
On the mini scale.
Out of 10 minis.
10 minis? Oh, man. In that high sevens, mid sevens place for me. It's not quite the 8, 9, 10s that we were seeing leading up to Money in the Bank over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good one to return to. It kind of reminded me of the things that we sort of love and hate about WWE in general, without talking about how the last month has gone and who is and isn't in charge and what does that mean for Endeavor and all that other stuff out there. This is like a 7.5 for me, or, it's above average compared to what's normally done. I think they kind of muddied up the women's stuff. I think the LWO things at the beginning kind of took me out of it. It's like, okay, fine. But as far as the wrestling and the matches and having fun, yeah, it's in that 7.5 range for me.
I'm gonna give it, this is me for two reasons. I'm gonna give it a 6 for two reasons. One, the pacing was good. Pace was paced fine. Two, minimal bloodline shit. There wasn't that much bloodline stuff, which was fantastic. And, as much as we're harping on how they handled the women's, there was women's segments. It dominated the majority of the second half of the show, which we don't see. I'm talking to you, Ring of Honor, and AEW about your women's programs. JVL will have a discussion about that, I'm sure, in one of the other podcasts later. Check them out.
But it's a matter of time.
Like a 6, for sure.
I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to give this a 6.5. Sure. I think overall, it wasn't necessarily bad. Obviously, LA Knight and Grayson Waller, from the promo to the actual match and the shenanigans that happened with Austin, Grayson, and KO later in the show, I think all that could be packaged as the best part. But again, from a booking order and the card and how the night overall went, there was a lot of talking, and I feel like they didn't need to do all this talking. But again, you're trying to squeeze in whatever possible matches you're gonna get, because literally Survivor Series is next Saturday. Like once this weekend.
Oh my God!
Next Saturday, the 20.
What?
Yeah, the 25th is Survivor Series, where it doesn't feel like it, huh? Because we
Ave Maria.
as they spent time building to Crown Jewel, and now that that's over, they're like, oh, we got 2 weeks until Survivor Series, you guys. Let's figure it out. So we have a couple matches confirmed already. We have the men's War Games match. It looks like we're getting a women's War Games match, and then I'm pretty sure we're getting Miz versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. So that's a thing. So we'll see. Oh, goodness. And Rhea versus Zoe Stark, honestly, is going to be my match right there. That match looks fire.
Wow.
For that title.
That's news to me.
Okay.
Damn.
I'll fill you in once. Yep. I got a lot
quickly.
Yeah, I got a lot to fill you in on everything that you've missed. But so 6.5, 6 mid, high 7. So this is an average episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, I'm a little more lenient because I got to get back into the swing of things. And I thought I had more fun than I didn't, so I'll keep it up there.
Well, boys, it was so lovely to have all three of us back again. It's been a hot minute.
We did it.
It was amazing. I love it. But if you enjoyed this review, you could check out other Friday Night Faction reviews, as well as pretty much every other wrestling show that we review here at the Biconic. So make sure you hit the bell notification, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment, good or bad, because we want to interact with you. You can follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod, where you can get notifications of when these reviews go live, some meme videos if you like, as well as out of context clips, because they are so great. Me and Will.
And thank you to our 88 subscribers. We're doing it. We're on our way.
We are on
almost there with if you guys do get us 100 subs, somebody will take their shirt off. I don't know.
We'll roll dice to see who takes their shirt off.
That'll be for the Patreon, because I think YouTube will demonetize us. But if you
want Kreisner episode,
yeah, maybe. But you think this is unhinged? You should go subscribe to our actual podcast where we talk about we're this kind of shenanigans, but more. And in a couple of weeks, I'm trying to prepare the boys as best as I possibly can, because we're going to be doing our end of the year in like 4 to 5 weeks episode.
That's going to be 4 hours long.
Lord have mercy.
I don't even think we finished last year's end of the year episode.
We had to break it up. We broke it up into 2 parts, but with 9 of us.
We never went back.
No, because we're all unhinged.
That was only like 4 or 5 of us. Now there's 9 of us.
Hundreds of us. Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out. How are we going to do that?
Oh, this is going to be a grand old time. But that does bring us to the end of this Friday Night Faction review. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay biconic, you beautiful bastards. But until then, from myself, Don, Minnie, and the rest of the Biconic boys, we'll talk to you later. But until then, ta-ta for now.